Hi, folks. Welcome to Friday's edition of the iRate Radio podcast. Stuart's done really well. He's remembered to wear a hat. I've had various OTs in this morning and I completely forgot. So
you're very excusable.
And he's also living in the dark at the minute, hence Stuart's picture in black and white.
Well, if you recall, it was too red before, so I'm still experimenting.
We've got a wee clip from Jimmy today, but he's out beating the tarmac, trying to make a living. The press conference today, no Nicholas Sturgeon, but we had John Swinney, who did very well, I thought, today.
I can't agree. Sorry.
No,
I disagree.
Well, give us your take on it.
Well, I've written up here, he was a poor deputy today. I'm not saying that he's always a poor deputy, but he just wasn't the same quality of smooth delivery that the First Minister is. She's become an amazing, influential speaker, regardless of the content. And I'm sorry, it showed up today. However, what did we have? We had a new face. Did you get the guy's name? Dave Seeger.
Yeah, I noticed, but I didn't.
He was Deputy Chief Medical Officer. I prefer the other one. I think she's better looking, but then again, I would. And she's Irish. I've always had a soft spot for Irish girls. Always got me in trouble. Brexit, the Brexit impact. That was an interesting story. And who was that? Neil from The Current. The rest of the stories were predictable about, the questions were predictable about the change in the levels, which groups, which areas are going to change, when, how long.
Well, the big story in that is the flagging up of the possibility that Glasgow City and parts of Lanarkshire might be going to level 4.
Ah, interesting too, though, that Stirling might also go. Because don't forget, it's no longer just health board areas, it's now down to local authority areas. Apparently Stirling's not good, and Aberdeenshire's not looking good either. Not the city, but the county.
Yeah, which I think Aberdeen may get mentioned later on.
I think that the phrase that you could use that will probably end up in the headlines is stubbornly high. That's prevalence they're talking about. But they don't want to exaggerate what's worrying them, but stubbornly high it describes their concern.
Well, I think they've achieved the plateauing, but they haven't got the numbers down.
I suppose.
They want a drop in it.
Does it matter that Scotland's the only part of the home nations that's not had a lockdown? Second lockdown?
Well, I suppose it matters in the sense that they've created the plateau. It's not worse. The infection level has not expanded, but it's not been enough to bring the infection level down. I think maybe that's what level 3 has achieved, and I think they want more than that.
So there was, I wrote right at the end, what we discovered was winter is here, but it's still, well, it's not here yet, to be honest. Winter is coming. Every week is going to get, they didn't use the term worse, but it's going, the potential disruption to the NHS is going to increase every week. Throw into that the fact that we've got Christmas coming as well. And the combination is they're worried. The public health people are worried about that.
And you've got students going home and coming back.
That's right. Student, you go down into the specifics and you've got students. There was also a question about the exams again. Somebody was fishing for some bit more detail whether hires would be cancelled. And
well, this will be on the back of, is it Northern Ireland has cancelled more exams.
Wales was referred to the one. But you could be right.
Wales.
Could have been Northern Ireland as well. I left the room.
So, well, I suppose it has to be on the cards.
It has to be. And the question of students, what was the question about students? Or when they come back, oh yes, mass testing was the other topic, wasn't it? The question of testing at airports. I believe that Ireland, it was interesting, the expression home nation was used today, a bit like a football story or a rugby story. And the expression was used because the Republic of Ireland is moving all their incoming and outgoing international arrival flights to Shannon Airport, and they'll be doing mass testing there. That'll allow more people to come and go.
I think what I find interesting about this is you were asked to do mass testing at airports 3 months ago, blah, blah, blah. Well, the problem then was that if you had tested people, it would have taken weeks to get the results back to them. Now that they have testing that can be done in hours, apparently, or they're trialing it anyway.
Well, that's a good point, Norry.
That makes it more possible.
Yes, because that deputy today, Deputy Chief Medical Officer, mentioned expanded testing within 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is that it wouldn't have impacted on the 14-day, or it wouldn't have impacted in any great way on the 14-day self-isolation. Things have changed, and it makes testing a more practical tool. But people, the press, I can understand they want their headlines, but I really do wish that they would actually look at the difference between the past and the present.
But don't forget,
mass testing of students to go home, what they're talking about is testing them self-isolating after the test before they travel. They're not talking about self-testing them and off they go in the car.
And then they're talking about what the questions were raised. Well, are you going to test them when they come back as well? And they'd have to stay in the room for a fortnight as well.
Well,
or is it a week?
Unless the test is so good that they can basically say, okay, you've got 4 or 5 days of self-isolation, but it's not going to stop isolation.
Yeah. But look, this whole question of quarantine, I'm using that as shorthand for just self-isolation for different periods and not just people flying in and out of the country. But even without drifting too far off the main topic, the fact that Dominic Cummings and his buddy are apparently going to leave the government, and he was pushing the idea that they should reduce the quarantine time from 14 days to 7 days and bring in this testing and all the rest of it, surely is a relevant factor as well, because the journalists will be thinking about that.
Well, I mean, it worries me. I mean, they're doing, I recently, there was a lot of appeals, especially from Drakeford, from Wales, about obeying the rules, not trying to find ways around them. Don't look for shortcuts. Do what's asked of you, self-isolate, wash your hands, stay away from people. Don't look at excuses not to obey the rules. And yet our government at Westminster is doing exactly that. They're trying to find ways not to have to obey the rules. That's what they're doing.
They're under different pressures and
well, it's irrelevant. They can't tell people not to try and be sneaky about it and then try and be sneaky about it themselves.
Yeah, but they've got a completely fascist right wing inside the Labour Party, inside the Tory party, and they're having to deal with it.
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter, the choice is simple. You do the thing you know that works. 14 days quarantine. You know that'll work. If you've got the disease, it'll show up. If you're asymptomatic, you're not going out infecting people. So 14 days, good rule. We know it works.
I'll tell you what, I'll give the tabloid hacks a score out of 10 on their own table, shall we say, quality table. And they did quite well on trying to put words into the Deputy First Minister's mouth today. the various questions about these self-isolating, quarantine, testing, students. It was all about trying to get a headline. So I'll give them about 6 or 7 out of 10 as a group.
But, well, yeah, and they are not helping things.
Yeah, but their bosses, as far as their career's concerned, they're helping themselves.
Well, they're helping themselves, but they're not helping the community or the country.
It's not their job to help the community.
No, but they're not.
But that's something that needs to be pointed out. These journalists, especially tabloid ones, do not perform a public function. They pretend they do, but they don't.
Well, they're doing exactly the same thing. They're looking for ways to evade the rules. Are you a cafe or a restaurant? How many times was that question asked? Simple fact of the matter is, the more people that obey the rules, the better chance we have of cutting the infection rate. And the press, and unfortunately the British government, appear not to want to obey the rules. They want to find a way round them, to circumvent them,
Right,
where they don't get the blame for a spike in infections because of what they decide to do.
Well, we discovered a long, long time ago they were going to blame the people and not themselves for their awful messaging.
Well, interestingly, guess who's going to get the blame for everything that's gone wrong?
All right, Cummings.
Dominic Cummings.
Oh, no, wait a minute. What about you?
As soon as he leaves Downing Street, he's the fall guy.
So you're going to collect on your bet after all?
Yeah.
That Cummings is gone. No, he's not quite gone yet, but he's going.
Yeah, and he's stayed long enough for the changes that they're going to make, this 7-day quarantine, to be blamed on him when it all goes wrong.
Will it still come in?
I think they'll do it. They've got a scapegoat, so they'll do it and say, "Oh, Dominic Cummings forced this through. It wasn't my fault, Gov. Big boy done it and run away."
You've got I suppose, from a London perspective, aviation and airlines and the financial sector, you've got the City of London and you've got Heathrow Airport. These are the two biggest drivers of the London economy.
Well,
so they're under pressure there.
Yeah, and the problem for them is they can't come out and say, right, in order to keep our supporters and the economy running, we're going to allow 500 deaths a day.
No,
they can't say that. So they have to play this game where, oh, it wasn't our fault. People didn't obey the rules. Dominic Cummings was the guy that said we should do this. This is politics for them, not a health scare. Well, a health scare,
Well, politics is in everything. There's politics of family relationships. There's politics at the school. Politics describes human relationships.
Will we move on to the SNP?
We could do with Jimmy's clip to start with, couldn't we?
Okay, give me a sec while I try and get it up.
Should I change my hat yet? Not yet.
Let me try and find it. Here we go. Jimmy from the taxi.
Just a quick one, guys. I'm stuck at work again today, so. But having read Alan Smyth's article and Joe Cherry's, I know which side I'm on there. I think Alan Smyth is just out to cause trouble. I think the fact that he can't accept the unacceptable behaviour of his partner reflects badly on the entire party, and instead is happy to bitch about everybody else and never ever do anything about his wee boyfriend is laughable. And the fact that they've pushed him into such a prominent position within the party, or he's pushed himself into that position, is a real worry to me, because he's an absolute carpetbagger, 100%. Discuss, chaps. Have fun.
Well, that's a very telling few words, to cause trouble. That suggests that Alan Smyth has an ulterior motive, and that puts Jimmy, I'm fairly close to his position on that. And the suggestion is that there are people inside the SNP at positions of power that you could say they're spy cops.
I'm presuming Jimmy wasn't referring to Alan Smyth when he was talking about carpetbagging. Alan Smith's been around a long time. Remember, he's an MEP for many years.
When I heard him say that, I thought, well, there's two ways to think of carpetbagging. Of course there are, but essentially, he has been there a very long time. He's not a 25-year-old looking to make his career and therefore compromising certain things just to get, joining the SNP because it's the big party, not because you believe in independence. He's already in with the bricks. And bearing in mind, he's been the SNP's representative in Brussels for a very, very long time. And the other representative is Hodgson. I can't pronounce his name properly. He is still there as a very senior member of the NEC, as far as I can tell. Is it him that's resigning as president?
I'm presuming Jimmy wasn't referring to Alan Smyth. I'm referring to his, I believe now, ex-partner.
Yeah, but he did say, unfortunately, Jimmy's not with us, but he did say that it was Alan Smyth was to cause trouble. That suggests an ulterior motive for Alan Smyth.
Well, I think Alan Smith's position is that the present cemented in elite at the top of the SNP should not be undermined with list. I mean, the article was about list candidates who were put on a list because they had a particular policy position.
Well, no, he was moaning about the fact that there were two pressure groups. Well, two pressure groups within the SNP who had come up with Joanna Cherry's article today's article in the National is high. It's very well recommended by me because it really clarifies a lot of what's been going on lately. And you've got the Commonweal, the SNP Commonweal group. And by the way, it is like that with the Commonweal group outside, because I checked up. And the it's a women's group, women's rights group.
Yeah.
And they came, I don't think they worked together, but they jointly, whether they worked together or not, came up with a list of their preferred candidates, mostly to do with the NEC and positions of power that they wanted voted in, and they did well.
Yeah, and as I said yesterday, Joanna Cherry basically said what I was attempting to say, which was Alan Smyth has no reason to object to groups within the SNP putting together a list of their favoured candidates who agree with them. It's been done in the past, it will be done in the future. His objection is that they don't agree with his position.
Yeah.
So you can't do what I would do was I in a position to do it because I didn't agree with you. It's anti-democratic in that sense.
Now,
if you want to wield power on the NEC and you want more votes that agree with your position, why not ask people to vote for people that agree with your position?
Totally worthwhile and a normal way to work in a party, isn't it?
It's exactly what political parties do in a general election.
But what is interesting is one or two of the things that Joanna Cherry says in this article. Then don't forget, she's responding to Alan Smith's really strange article, which you and I both agree on was way out of order. She says here, it is no accident that there is a close correlation between this group. This is the group that vilified Joanna Cherry because she supported women's rights.
And McAlpine.
And Joan McAlpine. It's no accident that there is a close correlation between this group and those who have sought to stifle any debate about, don't forget, they've tried to stifle a debate of the GRA changes in self-identity, right? I'll need to rewind here because I should have made that clear. It's no accident there's a close correlation between this group and those who have sought to stifle any debate about Plan B, if the British government will not deign to grant a Section 30 order. Now, that is a contentious statement to make, because I wasn't necessarily seen a correlation between people who was worried about their sexual identity and Plan B. Did you see that before?
I kind of had a whiff of it, but I wouldn't have been as certain as she's been. But she is nearer the people that she's talking about than I am. And it doesn't particularly surprise me, because their agenda is more about what they want politically, policy-wise, than it is about independence, as far as I can see. I don't hear these people screaming and shouting about how are we going to get independence.
Well, this is what I'm saying. I'm saying, does that mean gradualists are equal to GRA extremists, or are some GRA extremists unionist plants?
I think there's a little bit more to it than those two simple.
You've got to ask these. Go to the edge of the argument and ask these questions.
I don't think that people who support the GRA are unionists, and I don't think that gradualists.
And yet they've lined up together.
Yeah, but you know.
Well, what's the reason for them lining up together?
Because gradualists' position is to take it gradually, to wait until the pressure is so overwhelming that Westminster has to crumble. The GRA people, if you like, are gradualists because they want the Scottish government to enact their policy, and independence or a referendum would get in the way of that policy being enacted.
There you go. Now, here's another line from Joanna. I believe, so this is a strong point of her position, that their behaviour, these are the people that have attacked her, is symptomatic of an intolerance which is toxic and damaging to our party. Should it be allowed to continue or bleed into the independence debate, it could irretrievably damage the cause of independence. Now that you can't be hard, she's making her position absolutely clear there.
Yeah, well, and I'm not really disagreeing with her. No, I think I would probably agree with that. And I think she might be actually too late. I think it has already begun to bleed in. You know, I mean, I can actually see a situation where independent supporters would be unable to get a platform in events that these guys initiated on that wing of the party, the GRA supporting wing of the party. That seems to be the modus operandi. So you could have a situation where an SNP support member could end up being no platformed because their particular policy stance when it came to GRA didn't agree with these people. And that's a powerful position. If you have the activists in the GRA side and they're organizing debates or whatever, town hall debate type things, that's a powerful position for them to be in. So I think that the party, the SNP, has to do something in order to either stop them being in a position to do that, no platform people, or they need to get the spread more even, the balance more even.
Well, look, there's another point that she makes, and it's no platforming, no debate within the party.
Yeah.
Similar. Many members are rightly concerned that the no debate approach has resulted in an NEC dominated by people who are reluctant to question or scrutinise the party's governance or its strategic direction. And this is not healthy for internal party democracy. Again, that's a crucial statement to make.
Yeah.
That links the two together. That links the gradualists with the GRA extremists.
No, I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. I don't see how.
Well, the lack of if you go on some social media platforms and you scrutinize what the leadership of the party is doing, you get roasted as if you're a unionist.
Yeah, but I don't agree that you can lump all gradualists into the
No, I'm not.
JRA camp.
No, but the suggestion is that this idea, we're you know, this no debate approach would back up where these people, you know, we don't want to discuss the strategic direction of this
And,
party. We're quite happy the way it's going.
I see this in terms of a Venn diagram. Okay, so you've got one circle which is gradualists, you've got another circle which is supporters of the GRA. I think you would find the overlap is not nearly as big as Joanna Cherry's suggesting. A lot of gradualists will be guys our age, you know, who have been with the party a long time. They've seen gradualism work for them. No, I'm sorry. I think the gradualist group is a far larger group than the GRA group. I think
no,
the GRA looks like a larger group because they've managed to insinuate themselves into the NEC. And I agree, they are very noisy.
Well, can I finish with her summary? Jo's summary herself. Our party and our policies need to be match fit, appropriate term, for the end game in the struggle for our independence. Those who seek to hobble attempts to make sure that happens do not have the party's best interests at heart. And those who seek to stifle debate will not be much use to us in the full heat of the unionist onslaught once the second independence campaign starts for real. And again, I think that's my position. You can't go into an independence referendum carrying some of the baggage that's not being discussed at the moment.
Well, I mean, debate does not get rid of baggage, Stuart. I agree that we should be open to debate, and it seems like too much is being stifled at the moment, especially when it comes to the conference.
Well, but especially when it comes to the Alex Salmond affair. I mean, that's been stifled. And now the argument is that our enemies, our opponents, are hoping that will reach a crescendo just before the May election.
Wait a minute. What's being stifled in the Alex Salmond debate?
The very slow release of documentation.
The illegal release of documentation.
So it depends where you're sitting, whether it's legal or just
if you're
manipulation.
If you're sitting in a company governed by the laws of the land, which we are, neither the government nor Alex Salmond has got permission to release all the documents.
No, let's not go down that road.
Well, I'm sorry, Stuart.
We've only got 3/4 of an hour. No, we've only got 3/4 of an hour. You don't want to start.
Don't ignore this. You cannot hold a position that says break the law.
Oh, so you're saying that there is no dragging of feet by the Scottish government and the civil service on this issue?
What I'm saying is they've been told by the courts they can't release the information that the courts have told them they can't release.
It depends who you hear and who you read.
Well, either you agree there is information they can't release because the courts have told them they can't release it, or you break the law.
No, it's some of these, the instructions for not releasing, some of them have come from the Scottish government and some of them have come from the Crown Office, not from judges. I'm not talking about what judges have said, what courts have decided.
The Crown Office dictates the law here.
I'm
sorry,
issue.
Stuart. Because it doesn't suit your particular...
No. Come on, Norry. That is another issue altogether. The probity of our Crown Office at the moment is another issue that needs challenge.
Well, Salmond has been told he can't release certain documents that were in evidence during his court case.
Yes, by someone who's not even the Lord Advocate, because the Lord Advocate has recused himself from making these decisions, apparently. He's got juniors telling the public what these decisions are.
So what you're saying is the law officers of Scotland have no right to dictate what the law is?
They don't interpret the law. The judges do.
Right. So your position is, as it was yesterday, Alex Salmond should release everything and go to jail.
No, that's not what I said at all. You're putting words in my mouth. Don't you
Well,
dare.
that's the logical conclusion.
It may be in your head, but not in mine.
Right. So effectively, what you seem to be saying, what I'm hearing from you is everything that the committee has asked for should be released regardless of legal
No,
consequences.
What I'm saying is the dragging of feet by the Scottish government of huge tranches of documents that the First Minister promised would be released straight at the beginning of this affair is now got to the point where our opponents are looking for a conclusion of this inquiry just in time for the May election next year.
Right. So effectively, you're not prepared to discuss what should be legally released.
No, what I'm saying is it's a very bad plan.
Which is not dictated by the Scottish government or Alex Salmond. It's dictated by the Scottish courts.
No, that's not true. I don't agree with you on that at all.
Right. So effectively, you do not agree that the law should be obeyed.
There is a court order making sure that certain number of complainants in the Alex Salmond affair's identity is not revealed. Beyond that, everything else is contentious between us.
Well,
People.
that's the problem here, Stuart.
Yeah, but
because the court order also says they cannot release any of the documentation used or not used presented as evidence in the Alex Salmond case.
They have already done so. They've broken their own.
Well, you're going to have to prove that to me.
You have not been following this.
I have been following it.
All right. Barbara Allison, for one, the revelation about we've lost the battle and not the war. The issues around that was only revealed when
by the Daily Record.
No, when the Crown Office allowed her to examine the details of what was in her phone, which had been used for the Alex Salmond trial. Now, if the Crown Office can reveal that information for her, why can't they reveal the information from the other side of the argument, whatever it is? I don't know what the other side of the argument is.
Probably because the Crown Office aren't allowed to disobey judges' rules.
Well, they've already disobeyed the judges' rules. If they can break it for one, it's
in that case, the Crown Office should be taken to court.
Well, by whom? The Crown Office? Are they going to take themselves to court?
Stuart, I'm sorry. I know you think there's a huge conspiracy by government here.
No. It's a mess. Who says you're putting words in my mouth again? A mess is not a conspiracy.
Okay. So your answer to you clear up the mess by disobeying the law.
No, oh God, I'm not repeating myself. If you're going to be stubborn, let you be stubborn. We've got other things to talk about. We're boring people.
Okay. What will we move on to then? The football.
Well, the football we can do. I've got 2 or 3 excellent pieces, but no, I think perhaps we should just get some pleasure out of John Nicholson roasting a Tory toady. How about that one?
Okay.
So we'll need to go on to, where's my thingy? I'll need to go and share screen. Am I all right for that? And bring this up. And then I've got to, have I shared the screen properly?
Yeah, you're all right.
So we'll go down to
next one.
Yeah, this one here, I think it is.
You may quote all the figures you like, but you cannot get away from the fact that the SNP.
We'll do it again. It's all right.
You may quote all the figures you like.
Can you see that?
But you cannot get away from the fact that the SNP is extremely popular.
Look, the focus in terms of their discussion always focuses around independence, doesn't it? And
well, this one didn't actually.
Not obviously where we are now. We're talking about poverty, but in terms of the national discussion, there's a big discussion about independence. Always seems to be their focus in terms of what they want to talk about here and in the media. Whilst these problems exist, you're doing what you always do. Conservatives are absolutely obsessed with the constitution, obsessed with Brexit, which is going to increase poverty, increase child poverty. You're obsessed with Scottish independence.
every election leaflet I got from my Conservative opponent, who went on to lose in the course of the last election, was obsessively focused on independence. The more you drone on about independence, the more support for independence rises. But on the issue, for example, of the Scottish child payment, £10 per child that we've introduced per week, the Poverty Alliance described that as a game changer for poverty in Scotland. While you guys are doing everything you can to make folk throughout these islands poorer, the Scottish Government over a decade has been tackling poverty. That's why you're on 18% in the polls on Scotland and the SNP is on 58. That's why you get only six MPs in all of Scotland and haven't won an election in Scotland since the 1950s.
Right, I need to stop sharing that. Well, did you like that one?
I did, yep. John Nicholson's very good at condensing a lot of information.
Yes, he was a professional presenter. Yeah. You know, it's a bit like no, he's nothing like Ruth Davidson, but he's a BBC trained presenter.
He's very good at it and makes a very good point about the fact that the last I was forgetting how many general elections there'd been. 4 elections in Scotland, the Tories have always gone on a no second independence referendum platform. They've never gone on a policy platform of any sort, whilst continually saying we need to talk about policy, not independence. But while I'm mentioning independence, nay independence.
And I think he's also he's got charm, and he's got weight in the sense that you can tell that Joe Coburn probably knew him before, you know what I mean, before he even became a politician. And so Joe Coburn's just body language is different.
She did try to interrupt him. Joe Coburn's very good at that, letting people represent the SNP get a sentence and a half and then cutting them off. She doesn't like to hear people supporting independence.
I was left with the question of why did Ben Bradley, now he is a proper toady. What was he on about? School meals or something?
Yeah.
He's the one that accused, he said that if they get free school meal vouchers, they'll swap those for crack.
Well, he's a typical, he's that middle class Tory that pretends he's working class kind of guy, you know. Oh yeah, we're all for the wee people, but as long as they're paying more tax than the big people type of Tory. He presents well, but
he didn't interrupt. He didn't interrupt.
No, because I mean, the reality is he knows nothing about Scotland. He will have been told, right, your line here is, A, they're subsidised, B, they do nothing but talk about independence, and C, the national health in Scotland is worse than the national health in England. Go and repeat those lines, Sonny. I mean, he'll have no real idea about the politics up here at all. Why would he? He's an English MP.
Well, you notice I've changed my hat.
I did.
I wonder why. I'm sure the viewers will know.
I've no idea. Did something happen?
Yes, so that and Scotland is going into Europe. That's why the flag's behind me.
Okay.
Yeah, Scotland is going into Europe. Well, it's going into the European competition, football-wise.
How many games do they get before they get thrown out of that?
3. They'll get at least 3. I'm not sure. They are playing Czech Republic at Hampden Park. They get to play at home twice. In end of May, beginning of June. But even better, they get to go to Wembley to play England in June. And then they come back, and who do they play in the third? That's, I forget. Which is interesting, but it also, there is a political aspect to this story. Last night at the end of when the game was decided and Scotland had qualified for this European Championship, there was a lot of activity on Twitter. And the First Minister tweeted a pic, she retweeted the little clip of her celebrating the SNP candidate beating Joe Swinson at the Mulgai or Bearsden or East Dunbartonshire poll for the general election last year, and she really goes like this. You've probably seen it. Maybe I should have. Anyway, she retweeted that to show herself very happy at Scotland qualifying for Europe. Michael Gove reacted to that, but so did an awful lot of Tories.
Duncan Hothersall, Michael Gove, Cole Hamilton, because she was celebrating the defeat of Joe Swinson, not the victory of the SNP candidate.
And she was celebrating the end of someone's career. Was well, stuff that I saw. Was that Hothersall's view, was it?
Well, what it says to me is those people that thought she was celebrating not an SNP win, but an AN other defeat, simply show the way their minds work, because they put themselves in her position and they would have been celebrating the defeat rather than the victory. Yeah. That's what it says to me.
I think you're very right. I think Hothersall, I don't follow him anymore. I mean, he pops into my social media world now and again, but nothing like it used to. And he seems to be more and more out on a limb. I don't know what section of the Labour Party he represents anymore.
Well, he should be back in the mainstream with Starmer's being there. He was certainly sidelined during the Corbyn era, but
well, he's mainstream for England, but what's his role here in Scotland? It just seems to be compromised.
He doesn't seem to. Well, I mean, I still follow him, and he doesn't seem to have a lot of Labour Party stuff in his timeline. He has a lot of anti-independence, anti-SNP stuff.
So he was.
I don't know if he's still editor of Labour Hame.
I was going to say and Labour Hame was a reaction to Conservative Home.
Yeah, and became a hotbed of SNP bad stories, which, you know, it's the Labour Party, they're entitled.
So what else happened in the world? Polls. Another good poll.
Yeah, this is the Scott Goes Pop, James Kelly poll.
He's always got.
Did that not come out about 3 days ago?
No. We're having a real season of polls, but apparently there was another poll just a couple of days ago which showed the SNP staggering a little bit. This forward momentum of
panel-based poll, was that?
Was it? Anyway, so 50... the field work was done on the same period that the Scott Goes Pop, James Kelly poll, and therefore you can average them out. But certainly, what James Kelly, he describes himself as an analyst. That's his sobriquet, and he did say that it's the highest panel base we've ever gone. He used panel base for his poll. And
what was he, 56?
56. That's the highest it's ever been for independence. So that continues the momentum.
What was the other poll then? Was it YouGov?
YouGov.
53?
It was about 53. It had dropped 1% or something over the same period. So I'm not sure. YouGov, as far as I know, YouGov is, apart from one very rare occasion, as far as I know, YouGov is never very optimistic for independence.
Nor's panel base. Panel base was always the one. It was always worth looking at panel base because it was the worst.
It's always worth
traditionally.
It's also always worth looking at Scott Goes Pop, James Kelly's analysis of it, because he explains why they've asked the sub questions rather than let's have it. What question do you want asked? He asks his viewers and listeners on his blog, what other questions should we ask? And this provides depth, shall we say, which you don't always get elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, on that good news, I think we'll finish for the weekend.
I've got a clip to go out with.
All right. Well, let me do the talking and then show the clip. Okay. So thanks for listening, folks. Thanks for being with us, Stuart.
It's good fun.
Norry, Stuart. And you're going to go out in a football clip, aren't you?
Why not? It's not every day you get to celebrate like this.
I just thought I'd warn everybody they can leave now if they're not into football.
Oh, it's a short clip. If you wait long
Okay.
enough, I might show you two.
Oh, don't show two, just show
They're both
one.
very short.
Okay. On you go. Show
Here
it.
we go.
Remember to put the sound on.
Okay, let's find out if the sound is on, shall we? How about this one? Sound on?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Under the current rules, the goalkeeper has to keep 1 foot on the line. And I've looked at it very closely, and that's why the goalkeeper turns around to look at the referee before he's set. He doesn't celebrate the guy missing the penalty, and he stares at the goalkeeper stares at the referee, and he only starts celebrating when the referee says it's all right. And he did. I looked closely, and he had 1 foot on the line, which is allowed. But we can go out on this one. This one is in Edinburgh. This is what they do every Saturday night in Lothian Road, and this is how they celebrate in Edinburgh.
How they celebrated the Scottish win.
Yep, this is completely this is just spontaneous out on the streets of Edinburgh last night. There you go. Told you it's quick. I need to exit. There we are. Stop sharing. There you go.
I've got one question. Does playing the bagpipes, is it like a machine gun for coronavirus?
Yeah, probably. I've got a little bit of little news for you. That corner where the man was standing blowing the bagpipes, that's where I got busted for not driving my car, busted for drink driving for not driving my car.
You weren't in the car?
I was sat in the driver's seat of the car. We were
In charge
delivering
of the vehicle.
It was 3 o'clock in the morning. We were delivering PA to a top floor flat. I'm the old geezer. I'm the guy in charge. I am not driving the car because I'm drunk. But I'm too old to carry heavy speakers and things up to the top floor of a tenement flat. So I'm left sitting in the car. So when the police come along, I get done for drunk and charged.
Because you were in charge of the car.
I should have got out and leaned against it. I would have still been in charge of the car. I was in charge of the car, but there you go. So I have a drink driving conviction on that corner.
And well deserved, I have to say.
I have a very good excuse though, haven't I?
Okay, thanks for listening, folks. We'll see you on Sunday, day off tomorrow for us.
Yeah, okay.
Yay!
Yay!
So all you football fans, well done.